You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor. And though you heard the intro about what this podcast is about, we are evolving. We're shifting into a more refined level of expressing ourselves. And I do want to tell you something. The Spirituality Now podcast is a podcast that includes diversity. We have received some feedback that is, when there is challenging feedback, I know we're doing what is right. When we don't receive antagonistic comments, when we don't receive criticism, when we don't receive the opposite of what our intention is, you become part of the norm. You become part of the comfort zone for humanity. But when people begin to be triggered or challenge you to do better or to not do something, I'm paying attention. So I do want to tell you the Spirituality Now podcast will remain supporting the diversity in our unity and to support all the realms of existence. And therefore, that's why we have an incredible guest today that I'm really moved actually to have her here. I hope you are moved too, because her work and the work of teachers and providers of this service for humanity like hers sometimes is either diminished or hidden or so niched that people think it's either woo-woo or it's not important. And I truly believe this is one of the most important roles and offerings and services that as human beings we can render to one of the human realms. Now, I do want to tell you something, a disclaimer for this podcast, because I have friends in all religions, all traditions, atheists, everything, and I'm good with that. I am going to refer in this podcast a lot to Buddhism. And the reason why is because Buddhism includes the realm that our beautiful guest render service to. So with that said, let me introduce you to our guest this week. Her name is Maribeth Decker. She is an intuitive animal communicator, medical intuitive, and energy healer. And she is the founder of sacredgrove.com, where people and pets heal and connect. She works with pet guardians who dearly love their animals yet face tough issues. She uses her intuitive animal communication and energetic healing skills to address animals' physical, emotional, and behavioral issues. She's also an author. Maribeth is especially gifted in helping pets and their people move gracefully through transitions into the family, into a new family, or onto the next life. Maribeth helps people find peace and comfort knowing they have made the right decision for everyone, including their animals, when those decisions need to be taken. They finally experience that deep mutual love with the animal they have longed for. She is a retired Navy officer. Thank you so much for your service. Maribeth's rich personal life experiences have enabled her to bring a wealth of heart-centered wisdom to her work with each client. Her unyielding intention is to consistently bring forth the maximum benefit for all concerned in the most benevolent manner possible. Maribeth's speaking style is warm and comforting. We're going to hear her today, accented by a wicked sense of humor. I can't wait for that because, I'm going to say this. I'm Mexican, Maribeth, and we have a spicy humor. And she's an excellent storyteller, and the audiences love her. Maribeth, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, especially when you said you were going to bring in actually the Buddhist information and viewpoint, because I had to look around a while to see if there were any spiritual beliefs that were in tune with what I was experiencing as an animal communicator. And I found a lot of comfort in it is hard to say this because I don't identify with any direct religion, but Buddhism gave me a lot of comfort in saying, like, oh, what I'm feeling about this animal, it's validated. It's validated how I see them as a soul. So that got me started already. Thank you.
Well, that's a perfect start for the podcast because, you know, as I shared at the beginning of the podcast, we have recently, actually, I want my team that is here on the back of the back, you know, Sophie but to David and Saul and all the team behind the Spirituality Now podcast, that now we're receiving finally, after 100 something podcasts, some criticism, some challenging comments, and we like it because that points out for a good path for us of refinement, of betterment. But one of the things of the criticism is that, if I speak about the animal kingdom or I speak about spirituality per se, is either woo-woo or is either not Christian or not Buddhist enough or not thing. And I think that, true spirituality is an all-inclusive kind of gig. Just look at the planet. I mean, people don't like to go to all-inclusive resorts. Some like to, but Earth is an all-inclusive resort, right? We have animals, we have all sorts of flavors, colors of experiences and creations, experiencing ourselves as consciousness itself, or as just existence itself. So I am so glad that we started with this, and I love that you said something that you're researching. What's going on for you, that you can feel, hear animals. That Buddhism is one of the sources of comfort. I love when you said that. It comforted you, it validated that actually there was soul in animals. So I just wanted to highlight that. But Maribeth, I would like to start in the Navy. The reason why I would like to start in the Navy is it's incredible for me that I recently have attracted people that are very well positioned in the Army, right? Servants of humanity in that way, where I will never have thought that I will be honored to have such guests as yourselves here. So how did it happen that you being a Navy? First of all, why did you join the Navy? Tell us a little bit about your service and what's the story behind that?
Had just experienced the blizzard of 1977, so I'm old. And we got over 200 inches of snow. And my boyfriend at the time was ready to move on to somebody else, and he said, "Why don't you go to the Navy recruiter? You graduated from college." And I went to the Navy recruiter, and I said, "Can you give me any warm island? Take me out of Buffalo, New York, send me to there." And my dad had been in the Navy, so I knew he'd be proud of me. He is proud of me, even though he's on the other side. And I got Puerto Rico. And I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. So I love my country, all right? I mean, we ain't perfect, but I'm still glad I live here. But I was there because of the opportunity to get out and, as they say, see the world and see what I could do with my life. So there's the truth. And it was a good decision for me.
I love that. And I love that is the truth that you share here, instead of, creating stories that oftentimes some of us humans, create a whole narrative and story, when the fact is, I love this actually. I moved for the weather, for the opportunity, and it was kind of in the line of your life. But so what happened, what happened? What was the transition? What made you start in this? How did this world of the animal realm, we're going to call it the animal realm, call you? I mean, from the Navy to an animal intuitive, to a healer, to this medical intuitive that connects with the animal realm.
I want to give the Navy some credit for this, not directly, but leaving my hometown and living in different places, very different from where I grew up. And I'm talking about states and territories. I lived in Japan for 3 years, Puerto Rico for 3 years, even the West Coast, Hawaii. It opened my mind up to that there were many different ways to experience the world and many different kinds of people, backgrounds, cultures. I think that's really important to say, because when you start to step into a world you never heard about, which is your animals communicate with you, that background, I think, opened me up to, like, well, why not? So moving right along, I get to, and I'm working in a local association here in Virginia, and I get this need to do something else, and I start energy healing. I became a Reiki master and learned many other techniques. And that's when my dogs started communicating with me. I didn't even know it was a thing. Animal communication was a possibility. And the first two that communicated with me had both passed. They were both on the other side. My dog Timmy showed up. I've said this story so many wonderful times, but it just warms my heart. He showed up in the dining room when I was making dinner, and he was there like a full body apparition. It wasn't like, you think of the ghosts and you see through them and they're woo woo. No, he was like, Timmy was sitting there, one ear up, one ear down, big grin on his face. And in that, I turned and looked and said, Timmy, and he was gone. But one, I knew he survived death. I'm not crazy, by the way, so it wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't something I was looking for. Two, he looked really happy. And three, he took the time to come back and say, Mom, I'm doing well. I love you. I can tell you more stories, but that was the start. And I had another one with my dog Eddie. When she passed away, she came and comforted me. And you think, well, you're the one who passed. Don't you need, prayers and all that? No, she was back and comforted me. Now, the spicy story for you, I heard that spicy was, so my dog in life, Mitsubishi, Siberian Husky, named by the kids. So I take no responsibility for that. I'll tell the whole story because it is really good. He was watching me do some energy healing for Eddie when she was very sick, and she passed away anyway. So his back end was getting tough, and I think a lot of us who have bigger dogs start to see the back end going. And I went over to do some healing for him. Do you swear on the show, or should I clean this up?
Oh, spirituality is all inclusive, please.
Okay, all right, because this is the way I heard it. It's probably from my being a sailor. I started, honestly, he looked at me and he said, don't you try that shit on me. It killed Eddie. And I looked at him and said, what? And he jumped off the couch like, I've had it with you. I was astounded and seriously just like, oh. So when I realized that I could communicate with him, I went back and had a conversation to say, look, babe, it did not kill her. It didn't keep her alive, but it helped her transition. And after that, he let me do energy healing on him. But I have to say, I love the fact that he swore at me. I find that amusing even now.
Oh my goodness. I love that, because now I'm thinking of my dog when I do things that he doesn't like, that he looks at me like this. I'm wondering how much cursing in Spanish he has learned from hearing me.
Right?
His name is Oreo-san. And I think Oreo-san has a Mexican vibe to it now. But this is quite beautiful. I'd like to know, when was the first time for you? I mean, you have it when you were little. Let's go back. I'm going to time travel back and forth because I'm just threading the assignment, or in Buddhism it's called the Dharma path, your mission path of supporting people and animals. Which, by the way, I love that you said that pets have people instead of people having pets. I mean, that's a game changer right there. I don't know what's going to happen when I see Orion. Next time that I see him, I'm like, do I have him or does he has me? But what happened when you were a child? Were you in connection with animals? How was your relationship with the animal kingdom, the animal realm back then?
Truthfully, I would not say that I was communicating, that I knew of communicating intuitively with them. I have friends who were. Other people told me I was in connection, but I didn't have that sense. But I can remember a time when I was at my papa's house, and there were squirrels in the yard across the street on this big tree, and we found that they would come running at me, and then I would come running at them. And pretty soon he says, they're playing with you. I said, what? I said, you're right. They go up this tree, they wait for me to go, and then they come back down at me, and I run away. And they started it. So I look back and say, wow, maybe something was going on. But I don't have any other really like, da-da, and the clouds cleared.
I love that. That is so simple because some people think that we have to have a flash, an experiencing that is shattering or something. I myself include myself in those people like, I have to see the Buddha appear in order. No. One of my teachers told me, we were taking a Buddhist training of advanced meditation, right? As per the Buddha's teachings, etc. This teacher from Washington came and he said, if in your meditation you see an apparition, a Buddha, a deity, a Kuan Yin, something, you are doing it wrong. You are getting distracted. You should see nothing, feel nothing, and expect nothing. And so I love this. I love that it's a very clear path that you arrived here because you had to arrive. There's no more thing. You just did it, you are serving it, and you notice it. Now, back on time to the now. When you communicate with animals, right, and they communicate with you, what are the primary messages or something that we can generalize in a way that us as humans need to be attentive onto what they are seeking or what they are sharing with us in a most practical way? I don't know if I don't even know if this is a good wording question, right? But what are the bases? What do they want to tell us for us to pay attention to as human beings receiving this message from the animal realm?
So I'm gonna take what you asked and probably shift it into my understanding, if that's okay. I see each animal as having their own, I like to call it, personality, peculiarities, and preferences. I do not see them as always being somebody who's there to send a message from on high. Just like I don't think that every time my husband speaks to me, God is speaking through him.
I like
I
it.
think there's a lot of there's a personality that we're interacting with, and I'm saying this because sometimes people get so into the, how do you say it? The significance of the animal realm that they forget that these are individual souls and beings. And so maybe that's one of the things that's come through very clear to me is they're not just symbols. They have their own purpose for being here. They have their own story. And each one is different. So in that, and I love the question, in that, one of the things that I think that the ones who live with us bring to us is more time of being in the now and finding joy in life. One of the things I have said, because I noticed it for myself, is don't treat them like furniture. And when I was talking about how you could bond with your animals, your pets, more deeply. And many times we get so caught up in stuff, We walk right by them like they're a piece of furniture, even if they're looking up at us. And there's there's a joy and an increase in bonding when you start the habit of stopping and either touching or looking at something as often as you can, remembering that they're more than just something sitting over the corner or on the couch. That's the one that comes through for me right now. I'll stop in case there's
Oh,
thoughts or
wow.
questions.
No, you know what? I'm thinking because my whole question, it was based on something that the collective unconscious, right? Which it includes me. We may expect to receive a story, right? Like, oh, the earth is all speaking to us. The animals are telling, how about no? Imagine, Maribeth. Imagine if Yvonne was the earth, right? Yvonne is telling the whole world no. Yvonne just trying to survive the day, right? Yvonne is just trying to live this moment, and just your sharing right now. It simplifies it, it clarifies it, it makes it practical and functional, and it removes the whole story. That sometimes all these narratives and stories of sensationalism, right? We're gonna sensationalize. So my dog, he has a message for the world. No, my dog has the message of be present, be here. I'm the same as you in another realm, right? You were able to incarnate as a human. I'm able to incarnate as in the animal realm. Let's support each other. Just be kind to each other. Let's love each other. Let's contribute to each other, and that's it. Simple. And I think that's pretty much a really Buddhist Zen path of simplifying, right? Like, oh, I have so much to go. Right? All your wisdom is already like, I'm already like, oh my gosh, Yvonne, all these stories that you have. Even in the questions, I was able to realize that. Um, so when I love what you said, they're not. It hurts my heart. I'm going to tell you that they're not just. When I imagine, they're just not a piece of decoration. I got a dog. I got a cat. They're in the couch. Oh, that touched my heart because it's. I think of how many people not only disregard the presence of their animals, but their own presence in life. So, right? So, how do you support people in understanding this?
And so there is something that comes back to us, and those who love our animals know this. When you spend even a couple seconds, I call it a love fest with your animal, there you shift your energy to such a good higher place. And oh man, if we'd get more of that going in this world, it can't be a bad thing. um, oh goodness. And there will be times, I know animal species are certainly talking to us about how their lives are changing, or they're exhibiting how the earth's changes are affecting them. I'm not saying that's not true. And sometimes our animals might mirror some of our behaviors. But I'm asking people to never forget that the bottom line is they're their own soul. And the more we honor them that way, I think that we get to be better people, and they also feel, I'm not sure what the word is, treasured, loved, and there's something good for them too.
Wow, that is so true. When I think of my dog more than I think of my kids. Is that wrong to say? You know, I honestly, I'm right now. I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking of his eyes. I look forward to hug him, but it's true. When I'm hugging and loving and kissing, I become better in that moment. I have become more compassionate since the arrival of our last, member of our family, Oreo-san, than before. Actually, Maribeth, can I tell you something? When my dog arrived, a date left because the date, look at me gossiping in live in the podcast and doing session here. But the date said, how could you get a dog instead of giving me that money for me? And I was like, wow, this dog came to be a catalyzer, a mirroring, like what you said, like a mirror of the situations that I was not looking at. And so the date is gone, the dog is in. I just wanted to tell that and record it in a
No,
podcast.
yeah, I've had a few times where the same situation about my relationship with my husband. There was a point where my animals, all four of them, when I had passed 2 dogs and 2 cats, all their eyes got really messy, and I said, "What the heck's going on here?" And I got this thing that there was an old Jackson Brown song about doctor, my eyes can't see, blah blah blah. And I thought there's something I'm not seeing in my relationship with my husband, and then I did some work on that, and we also worked on the animals' eyes, the dogs and cats. But there was a message there, and it was like, "Yep, you got to take a look here. You're not seeing what you should be seeing." We're happily married, okay? Everybody has issues, but it was good. It was something that helped me move forward and stop ignoring.
Yes. Unbelievable. So now, Marybeth, what happens, when people, there's a lot of, I saw, well, first of all, I'm just putting in order my thoughts. I saw recently, there's a lady in Mexico who is married to one of the most beautiful and honest speakers of faith. His name is Daniel Habib, and her name is Anja. I hope I pronounced her name correct, Ania Ruiz. And she's such a protector of animals. And she posted something on social media. They're big influencers and really honest, faith oriented people. And she posted something about how important it is when an animal is going to transition to be there with them, to hold their paw, right? To look eye into eye instead of a lot of people wash their hands and give it to the doctor for them to put them to sleep, or that's how it's called, instead of being present with the animal. And she said that they need that as much as we need that, just like we will do it with a person. Could you talk a little bit about those transitions that you seem to specialize in, on the support, both for the human and for the animal in these co-shared realms that we are coexisting together?
Yeah, I thank you for asking that. Um, First off, I know I'm kind of like talking to everybody's experience a little right now. Nothing's perfect, right? We do the best that we can, and sometimes our animals pass away when we're not around. So I'm not talking to that. I'm talking where we have the ability to make some decisions. And I personally, I agree. I think the idea of doing it together as a family as much as you can in the home. When I shifted over to home, everything got better. So I was thinking, where do we go for humans? But let's stay with the animals.
Yes, yes.
So you get to say your goodbyes. It's hard. It's hard. Usually our animals have been a really strong source of support. And I ask people to have courage and be there for our animals, because it's going to make, how do I can say it? You'll actually feel good about the fact that you were there with them and for them. And I've also noticed that if you can do it, it's a safer place to have it at home, because I have done the other way where I do it. I have been with them even in the doctor's office, the vet's office, but walking in and out for the human, that is the most miserable thing, of having to pass all these beings who just know what happened, but they don't know you, and going back home. How much easier it is to set it up at home and be able to grieve in your own home. And I got to say that beforehand, some of the things I didn't really think about until I got into this was you can ask your animal if there's something, your dog or cat, if there's something they'd like to do or have happen, or how would they like their transition to go. My funniest story was a dog who was sticking around way too long. He had neurological issues, and in person, he was walking in circles because that's all he could do. And when I asked him, "Why are you sticking around? What's going on?" Uh, he says he said he told me he was waiting for a party, and I'm like, I'm going to tell these people that, and they're going to go, "You are crazy." So I told the woman and her boyfriend, and the boyfriend looks at her and says, "Well, we give him a birthday party every year, and we invite all his doggy cousins over, and we have doggy birthday cake and little doggy party hats." And she goes, "Oh, that's right." So they talked about how they could do an early birthday party for him, and just let him have that final piece. When we talked about Mitsubishi, when he was passing, he was at home, and it was like we had an early wake. Kids from the neighborhood came over to say goodbye. My friend Snow brought her dogs over to say goodbye. We fed him all the treats that he loved, and he was just like, "Oh, good, this is good." So there might be something you can set up. What do they want to do on their last day? We took my son's dog to, she was in the wagon, but we took her on the trail next to the Potomac River, because that was her favorite place. You can make it really beautiful for both you and them. In spite of all the grief, you have this lovely memory of how you honored them, even at the end. And being there with them really does, I believe it helps them.
Wow. You know, this podcast is being bittersweet because I'm thinking of all the passing of especially one of our dogs, Benny, who I'm going to tell you, Maribeth, I had more grief for Benny, my dog, than I had. I mean, I still have grief for my mother that passed, but it caught me by surprise, the tremendous grief, the still I speak about him and I feel the incredible presence that this dog had in our lives, and his ability to bring joy. And one time Benny, my former husband lived, we were neighbors, and we will come back and forth to each other's houses so for the kids to have access. And one time he was not there and robbers came into his house. The dog Benny was there, and Benny exited his house, ran out, came into my house where I was having a party, talking about party, and he kept trying to pull us with his body to go to the house where the robbers were in. Unbelievable awareness and presence, and his whole body was letting us know this is happening right now. So I'm very moved by this podcast because all that you are sharing. I wish and hope that honor and that grace that we can offer to animals, we can offer also to each other human beings, right? In family constellations, that I've been a practitioner and teacher for 20 years now, there is an honoring cycle of everyone in the constellation, right? If a mother loses a child, if a father loses at war, everything is included. So we all as a community and a family can grieve it, celebrate it, honor it, sometimes, put a boundary into it so we all can benefit. And I think all of these realms, like Buddhism has these different realms, like I'm just going to speak about the animal realm right now, the animal realm, the human realm. If we can include all these realms in a way that we support each other to evolve and just to be present and just to be kinder humans, I think, we will have far much more healing and compassion and wisdom in all of our lives. Because when you speak, I'm just feeling so connected, and I'm waiting to see if Sophie, who is behind the scenes right now, has a question for you, because she has an incredible dog. Her name is Sol. And that Sol is like, who's her? What's the personality? So let's move a little bit into that, Maribeth. So you work, you work with them for the transitions, and you said, and that's why I'm bringing Buddhism here, and transitions into their next life. Would you tell us a little bit about that in the way you see this with your experience with animals, about the next life? What does that mean for you?
Um, I started to notice it when, so it's going to be based on experience. I don't have a theory yet. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not at that level. But when my cat, Mac, was my daughter's cat, and he came to me after he and his sister Bunny came to me after my daughter started traveling when she graduated from college, just so you know. I would look at him and call him Tom. I'm like, why the heck am I calling this boy Tom? My grandmother's cat was named Tom, and I was absolutely certain that that was my grandmother's cat. There might have been some incarnations in between, but I'm not so clear about that. But I knew he was Tom, and now he's Mac. And I thought, wow, okay. So from there, I don't have like a time frame. I can't say, well, it's an instantaneous coming back. I personally feel like most of us need a little time to reset and get clear on what we want to do, whether we're humans or we're, as another wonderful podcaster said, more than human. It might take some time before we come back. But I also believe that they're part of our soul family, SOUL family. It's not just humans, it's our animals too. And I think that we get together periodically and keep the story going, I hope for good reasons. That I know for good reasons. Both of us, we get something out of it each time. That's the part that I know. There's a lot more probably out there, but that's what I know and have experienced right now.
Wow. I don't know. This, being in your presence is moving me a lot. It's bringing me far much more awareness and compassion on the animal realm. Just want to share with people that just in the perspective of Buddhist cosmology, right? Buddhist cosmology views animals as sentient beings, as you said, with soul. And it's a realm into which other beings can take rebirth. Whatever realm you are of existence, whatever realm of you have been before, I mean, you can, some beings take rebirth, some souls take rebirth in the animal realm. So we got to be very compassionate. So this brings me to a very challenging topic, right? And, I used to be vegan since little. I couldn't eat animal flesh, etc. Then vegetarian, then when I was pregnant, I started craving meat, and so it's a very challenging thing to do. And of course, you tell me if you want to go there or not, or in just your perspective. How do we approach that? I know in Buddhism, my Shaolin teacher of Tai Chi and the Kung Fu teacher of my son said that sometimes, you are going to be eating meat or anything, and you have to bless the meat, and you have to make sure that it comes from, a proper source where animals are honored and all of that. But what is as an animal intuitive and animal supporter in both humans and the animal realm, what is your take on this, on the eating meat and all of that? And I ask our podcast listeners not to be of judgment right now, right? Because this is a challenging topic that we're going to address right now.
It's an incredibly challenging topic. I'm in the place of where I want to be as little of a judge of others' behaviors as I get to see mine more clearly. So this is not judgment. Because became a vegetarian, I have not been able to move to vegan in the strict sense. When I started communicating with animals and realizing in a very clear way that they are sentient beings. And there is a wonderful book where a woman, like Water for Chocolate or something like that, who when she
Yeah,
cooks,
like
her
como
feelings,
agua para chocolate, Maribeth.
okay, I love that one. As she cooks, her feelings go into the food, and I think about how animals are treated and become food, and whether it's a respectful life and ending or it's cruel. And I wonder if that cruelty makes its way into the food that we eat. That's always worried me. Just for us humans, like, gee, what? But for me, just as best as I can, I've got the feeling that that's not for me anymore. Uh, and as much as I can, I avoid stuff that is made from animals, and there's a lot to debate about that. Um,
Yeah, let me just talk about that for a moment because, under and I feel it too, and lately I have returned to the vegetarian ways, I've returned into blessing deeper my food. I had a stage in my life which if I compare, because the the marketing stuff and the medical world and all of the emphasis of supporting longevity and muscle and health based in that people need protein and everything is so confusing for people nowadays, and we have Buddhist education, Christian education, we have so much things right now, and then we have countries that they have no education, or that they have the poverty is so strong, the hunger is so strong that a chicken, a bird that lies there, it may be a blessing for their body. So I'm not sure, I'm not here to judge or to put my finger into judging anyone, but I do feel that animals have a soul. I do feel they are sentient beings, as you name them, and this is very well backed up by the science of Buddhism. I love Buddhism because it's so scientifically proven. People don't know. People confuse Buddhism with religion, and it's not a religion. It's a system of education, and it's hard. It's hard. Um, it's hard. So we're going to skip that question right now. Maybe perhaps one day, Mary Beth, we just do a spicy, um, venture of a podcast of that. But let me go back before our show ends right now into, there we talk about the next slide. We talk about the reincarnation aspect, perhaps, of this animal. So what are common things that people will come to you for work? For example, I have a friend that there was a cat staying at her home, Mary Beth, and the cat, I swear to you, this is real stuff, right? We didn't believe her until we heard it. As soon as she will go into her house, this was not her cat, it was someone else's cat staying in their home. She was helping them have a place to live while they find another place. The cat wouldn't stop yelling or meowing like all day long, no matter where she went, all night. She couldn't sleep. It was wow, 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 wow. So this friend was desperate. She couldn't sleep. She gave him tuna. She couldn't understand what he was saying. So this type of people, this type of friends that they're having challenges communicating with their animal or something, how will they be able to work with you? How would you support them? What is the way that you can facilitate teachings, training for us to understand the animal realm?
well, when I work with people and their animals, I use my intuition to say what's going on. How come you're keeping your people up all night? What are you trying to say? And we look and see, because I have the background in medical intuition. Is there a physical thing going on? Is something bothering you? Is it, what is it? Do you want to play? Are you scared? Or is it, oh my, I've met dogs with sundowners who have, they're starting to do the doggy version of Alzheimer's, who do stuff. And I think cats too sometimes have. Point being, what's the cause? What's going on? And then we address it. Maybe we do some energy healing. And then we have some communication. With my cat Mac, I was talking about, he'd try to wake me up about midnight, and I, being who I am, I'd say, Mac, I'm not playing with you right now. Either go play by yourself or come to bed. And I'd start to hear the little ball bounce by itself, or I'd feel him jump on the bed. So that was one thing. So we figure out, have a conversation about what will work. We do energy healing. I teach people. I have a You Connect class, so you can start connecting and communicating with your animals. So that's really quick and dirty about what I do. We try to find out what's going on, and then we address it from that point and have a conversation and a shifting and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes it's the person that's having more of a shift than the animal. I worked with somebody recently. She wanted to get her feral cat was coming in, and she was like, I need to get him neutered right now. And when we connected her to, she says, no. She said, I realize I need to build up the relationship first and create trust. And we did a lot of that. And
oh, wow.
His behavior shifted right away, of coming in and being okay with the door closed and letting himself be touched and all these things. And people who know what I'm talking about, that's a big change for a feral cat. Okay, hopefully that's not too much.
No, we want too much, Again, this show is about the spirituality part. I have people saying like, oh, I'm not that spiritual, or other really spiritual people saying, I don't fit in your show because I am this spiritual, So everything goes here, This is unity in diversity. I am inviting all of the realms, so we can understand each other and support one another, because we all have the same pursuit, either self-realization or happiness, or just attaining or not enlightenment, and accessing heavenly realms in the here and now. So, Maribeth, you said, I don't know the name of your book. Could you tell us a little bit about your book before we finish?
Thanks. The name of my book is Peace in Passing, Comfort for Loving Humans During Animal Transitions. I wrote it the first time in, I think, 2015, and I rewrote it last year because I wanted to give people more information about how to manage themselves and their animals when the reality that there's an end to this beautiful soul's life hits them. And it's usually there's a diagnosis, or you start to see them going downhill physically or mentally. And that's for us. What I noticed is that's when the grief hits. It doesn't start right at the end when you're planning their euthanasia. It's back when you get that terrible prognosis or diagnosis. And so all the different ways, mindsets, alternative therapies, mindsets for us, mindsets for, to help them, things that they really desire, usually as it gets closer to the end. I have there's a lot of stories in there from people I've worked with. So they're like, yes, I want to put my dog, my cat, my horse in there. Put Joe, my horse, in there. Let's tell about him. So it's personal stories too.
Wow.
Really,
I love this, Maribeth. I love this. We're going to make sure to put all the links to your contact information, to your book, because I'm going to tell you something. I think this animal realm, and it's moving me a lot, and the impermanence and the preparation that I mean, the animals, I mean, we all humans, we can die tomorrow or this moment or the next moment. We don't know. Impermanence is really part of existence and nature. And animals tell us, like my Shih Tzu, I know if he's healthy enough, he can live 15, 17 years. Our Labradoodle lived 18 years, which is unheard of. And that was an incredible gift and blessing, right? But it's still, when you think of a human, it's like 80 years, 70 years, 90 years, some 100, some 50 at least. But animals don't reach that scale of numbers, right? So we have an education from the animal realm to the human realm of impermanence, of transition, of preparation for death, and to enjoy life in the present moment, right? They are the teachers, so be present here and now. Let's play now. Let's eat now. Let's do what we need to do now, and at the same time be prepared, because this life is impermanent, whether you are human or not. This is an impermanent gig, and I feel that one of the greatest gifts of your book, of transitions, of preparation, of genuine care for one another, is that to enjoy life, but be prepared also for that. That's facts. That's
That is
life.
true. That is true. And there's even, I was thinking of my kids and their their gerbils and hamsters, and that was a preparation for them as well, as hard as it was. There is a reality there that they, oh goodness.
It
So
is. Yeah.
yeah, about something that you love that's life has to end, and you figure out how to deal with that best as we can, right?
Best as we can, as human beings, as we can. And they prepare us too, because we too, as it said, we too shall pass. So, Maribeth, we are arriving to the end of the show. We're very grateful that you were here. Do you have some kind of blessing for our last words that you can tell to the audience about their animals, about their connection to the animal realm before we end the show?
I would love to say that we think we picked our animals, but it was a mutual decision. They picked us as well. And the time and the place where they came in, it wasn't an accident. And if you please bring that into your heart and say, as easy or as hard as this animal is for me, we're in this together. We chose each other for a reason, as you might say, for our own enlightenment. And please treat them like a treasure, an important part of your life.
Amen. Amen. Wow, Maribeth, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It opens the gates of compassion, and for a lot of us, and hopefully for all of us. And again, we will share all of the information of Maribeth with you all, her links where you can follow, contact her, where you can get her book. And we hope to have you soon back in the podcast, Maribeth. And we send you all, you, Maribeth, all the human realm and the animal realm, all of our love. Thank you, everyone. And we send you a big kiss. Un beso. Adios. We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.